guys.
I want viewers watching my show to believe in themselves.
Judge Hatchett is compelling.
I was not the first one to throw a walk.
Let me just tell you what you just said.
Compassionate.
I really enjoy being a judge. Now I am touching people who I will never know I touched.
She's powerful.
You should have never let them walk out of your life when she was 3.
And she's on the bench.
Don't get me preaching up in here today.
Right.
You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Larry Roberts is suing Evelyn Baker in the amount of $1,145.90. Larry Roberts claims Ms. Baker's teenage daughter hit his parked vehicle and fled the scene, leaving him with a damaged car. Ms. Baker claims her daughter didn't cause the damage and blames her daughter's boyfriend.
Mr. Roberts, you are basically suing Miss Baker and saying that her daughter was responsible for some damage to your car. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And so tell me what happened.
Well, about 3 months ago, a typical morning, I was just headed out to work, and as I was walking towards my car, I noticed that the tire was perched up on the curb. The passenger front tire was actually on the curb. So I walked around the car, and I noticed some green paint and a little damage to my vehicle. So as I was inspecting it, my neighbor, Mrs. Diaz, who is here with me.
All right, Ms. Diaz, come and join us. All right, continue. I just want to...
And as I was inspecting the vehicle, she had basically signaled me over from her balcony. So I went over to her apartment across the street, and she had told me that she had seen a green Ford Taurus. It was parked there, and there was about 5 or 6 teenagers that were trying to move my car from the tire being on the curb back onto the street. And she said, I guess they gave up in the process of doing it, and then she said that her neighbor's daughter, Mrs. Baker, and her daughter there, the daughter was driving the car as the teenagers jumped in and drove away.
All right, Ms. Diaz, will you state your full name for the record, please?
Edith Diaz.
And you've been previously sworn as well?
Yes.
So what did you observe that particular day?
Well, it was early Thursday morning, like around 9:30 in the morning. And I was watching TV in my apartment, and I hear a loud noise, which sounded like a car crash. So I opened the sliding door, the glass doors, to go out of the balcony. And I stepped out, and I saw a green car parked on the street next to Mr. Roberts' car, which is a Honda. And there were a bunch of kids running around the car. And there were about 5 and 6 kids that were trying to lift the car to put it back on the street, but they couldn't. So they all went back to the car. They ran back to the car. And then Miss Janice, she fled too. She went back to the driver's seat, and they drove away.
And you know both Miss Baker and her daughter because they are your neighbors.
Yeah, they're my neighbors.
So they're no strangers.
No.
All right, so Miss Baker, what do you have to say about all of this?
Your Honor, when I talked to my daughter about what happened, she did confess to everything. She told me what happened. She told me that her boyfriend is the one that was driving the car when Mr. Roberts' car was hit.
Did they have permission to drive your car?
They did not have permission to drive my car. No, they did not. And I talked to her. I told her that I did not approve of the guy she was dating. Brady, he's 18 years old. He's in prison right now. I don't approve of the relationship.
Why is he in prison?
Because he violated his probation.
Oh, so he'd already been in trouble. Then he violated his probation, and now he's back in prison. Is that right? And your mother didn't approve. Any wonder why she wouldn't approve?
Well, technically, Your Honor, I didn't even know that he was in trouble until after the situation. That's when he told me about his probation and everything else that he did before that. I didn't know that yet, but she did tell me he seemed sketchy and everything like that. But, you know, my judgment, I care for him and everything like that. I didn't think that...
Let me tell you. You're your age, you think your mama doesn't know anything. But I promise you, by the time you're your mother's age, you'll understand how wise she is. So what happened that day? Tell me what happened.
I told my mom that I didn't hit Mr. Roberts' Honda because I didn't. My boyfriend Brady did. When she left for work that Thursday, he came over with a couple of his friends, a couple of my girlfriends and stuff, and he suggested that we all go to the mall.
Clearly, you don't have your mother's permission to take the car.
Right.
Do you even have a driver's license?
No, I don't drive. I wasn't the one driving. So he said, let's just take the Taurus. And of course, I was skeptical. I don't usually do stuff like this. I was skeptical. I was like, I don't want to do this. But he said nothing bad was going to happen. He said his friend offered to replace the gas and everything like that. So I thought, okay, maybe she'll never notice. He claimed she would never notice. So he also said he would get me something at the mall. So I was, me being tempted, I know, I'm sorry. But I did give in to my judgment, and I'm sorry I did. But as soon as we pulled out of the parking lot and headed down the street, he dropped his cigarette in his lap and lost focus of the road. And he hit Mr. Roberts' car and moved it up onto the curb. So, of course, we're all panicking. Like, I knew that it was completely noticeable. So he said if we could just push it back onto the street, maybe he wouldn't notice the damage as much. So we all got out of the car, tried to pick up the car and put it back on the street, but it wouldn't move. I'm not strong enough, so it wouldn't move.
It wouldn't move.
It wouldn't move at all, so I panicked.
So he's going to cover up one situation by then trying to do something else. Well, let me tell you, if we can just move the car off the curb into the street, maybe he won't notice. Do you not see a problem with this?
Of course he was going to notice, but I didn't think maybe it wouldn't be as bad. You know, maybe he would see the car, oh, that's my car, and just keep going. I didn't think, it was a small little scratch. It wasn't like it was a huge dent.
Well, for $1,145, it was more than a scratch.
Coming up on The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
So he comes back with the estimate, and what happens?
I told him that I'm not responsible. We are not responsible.
Why
my
weren't
daughter
you
was
responsible?
My daughter was not driving the car when his car was hit. It was Brady who was driving the car.
And later,
The assignment overall was worked on together.
I
But
understand.
I'm still talking about, though, this scene that I wrote on my own.
you're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Larry Roberts, who is suing Evelyn Baker for property damage.
Do you confront Ms. Baker about the situation, Mr. Roberts?
Yes, so once I spoke with Ms. Diaz, I basically filed a hit-and-run report. I took some pictures and then went to work, and then later...
And you have pictures of the car,
Yes,
is that
I
correct?
have that right here.
Officer, may I see those, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's also an estimate as well as a police report in there as well.
All right.
So I did that, and then being that I kind of knew who it was or had a suspicion, I went across the street and to be honest, I snuck into the parking structure when a tenant was driving out, and I searched until I found a green car, and I went around and I looked at what appeared to be somebody, like a bad patch job of somebody trying to repaint over where some damage had been done. So I went to Miss Baker's house, and I knocked on the door and basically introduced myself and explained that I believed her car had been involved in a hit and run. And
All right.
so and she seemed very surprised about it, you know, like kind of in denial, like that her daughter could even do such a thing, and
Right.
she adamantly claimed that she doesn't have a license, she wouldn't drive. I say, well, you know what, I'll just go get an estimate and then I'll come back.
Okay.
And so
you get an estimate and you come back, and what is her response?
her response was adamantly no.
Why?
She basically said
And let me
that,
ask her, why?
He was not that nice when he came to speak with me the first time. He was very demanding. He was very frustrated, which I understand, but he was not polite like he's saying he was.
So he comes back with the estimate, and what happens?
I told him that I'm not responsible. We are not responsible.
Why weren't you responsible?
My daughter was not driving the car when his car was hit. It was Brady who was driving the car. And I feel as though since he is 18, he's responsible to pay for those damages.
So when the accident happened, and everybody jumps back in the car, Ms. Diaz says it was you who was driving off. Is that true?
Your Honor, yes, it is true. When I told everybody to get back in the car because I panicked, I didn't want Brady driving anymore because of what happened.
Clearly.
So I took off down the street. But of course, I don't know how to drive. So I'm thinking I'm gonna get in an accident. I'm lucky I didn't get into an accident. So
Thank
when we
goodness.
got towards the end of the street, he took the wheel. He saw I was driving crazy and everything, so he decided to take the wheel, and I went ballistic. I started yelling at him. I said, you need to find a way to fix this and everything before my mom gets home. So he said that his friend knew a guy who could fix it fast, fix it in a small time period. So he drove it to the guy's house, And that guy only does, what, paint jobs on motorcycles? So, but surprisingly, he did a little bit, I guess not really, of a good job, and he just took it right back home.
Miss Baker, let's just bottom line this. This is your car.
Yes.
Your daughter allowed Brady to drive this car, certainly against your rules.
Yes.
Why shouldn't you be responsible?
Brady is an adult. He knew what he was doing. My daughter is a minor. He's responsible. She is not responsible.
If you feel that way, then you need to go sue Brady. But I doubt that that's going to happen because he's back in jail. I hope you've learned a lesson from this. Miss Baker, I am entering judgment for Mr. Roberts in the amount of $1,145.90 to be exact. And if you feel that strongly, then you need to go and sue Brady. But they were in your car. They were operating your car with your daughter having facilitated it, and therefore you are responsible. There's nothing further. We'll stand adjourned. Judgment for the plaintiff as so ordered.
Judge Hatchett has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $1,145.90.
In the future, I hope you can keep better control of your daughter.
You don't have to worry about my daughter, but I'll make sure this never happens again.
Coming up.
The assignment overall was worked on together.
I understand.
But I'm still talking about, though, this scene that I wrote on my own.
Network featuring dynamic judges and live legal programming.
Well, we're not at your school, we're in my courtroom.
Unique court shows.
Where is any information about the company?
Live legal news.
That's what you should have done.
And a commitment to justice.
Either you tried or you did it.
The next generation of court programming in one dynamic network. Justice Central. You're watching Justice Central. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Byron Allen.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton. It's Kevin Frazier.
It's Tamron Hall.
It's your girl Lonnie Love.
It's Sean Robinson.
It's Natasha Alford.
We are here to celebrate
The power of Juneteenth.
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 And honor Black excellence.
Don't miss Byron Allen presents
Juneteenth, celebrating centuries of Black excellence. Saturday at 8/7 Central on the Griot.
You're watching Justice Central. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Colin Ortiz is suing Oliver Salvador in the amount of $2,000. Mr. Ortiz claims he lost a scholarship after Mr. Salvador used a scene the plaintiff wrote to win a short film competition. Mr. Salvador claims he wrote the scene with the plaintiff in their writing class and feels they both have ownership of the material in question.
All right, Colin, you're suing Oliver. You all at one time were classmates, as I understand.
That's
and that you
correct.
had worked jointly on a project.
Yes.
And you're basically saying he plagiarized a piece that you wrote that you then submitted later and you lost your scholarship. Is that in a nutshell? So let's back it all the way up. Tell me what happened.
Well, Your Honor, Oliver and I were assigned back in college to work on a project together, a collaborative piece, for just for a short script to turn in to our script writing class.
Okay. So this project starts and what happens?
The project started, and we were too busy to really meet each other in person to collaborate with each other on the project itself. So we just decided to shoot each other emails of different scenes that we would collaborate on each other for scenes.
Is that the way it worked?
Yeah.
Oliver?
So we went back and forth with the emails, and we did 2 rough drafts. We turned them in, and after the second rough draft, we decided that we should take out some material, and we did.
So you all were collaborating on a class project.
On the
Yes.
screen.
And so you would email pieces of this
Yes.
And edit
project
whatever
back
word
and
we
forth,
thought
edit
was
it.
okay.
This piece that we were working on together for the class assignment,
Right.
it was finished. You know, we shot each other emails and we worked on it and we finished the project together.
All right.
We edited it a little bit and then we were ready to turn it in. But
All right.
I thought that the project was running a little thin. It was a comedy piece. The project was to work on a comedy piece.
All right.
I thought that it needed something a little bit extra. So I decided to take my own time to write this own piece that I just thought of on my own.
And you emailed it to Oliver.
I emailed it to Oliver, and he liked it. You know,
Okay.
we both agreed that we liked it.
But you wrote it.
I wrote it. I solely wrote this scene.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not too aware of who wrote what. It's the same assignment. Like, it's both of our works. So
But if I
thought-
write part A and you write part B and we put them together,
There's still
what-
certain parts that we will edit, like, say a name.
The assignment overall was worked on together.
I
But
understand.
I'm still talking about, though, this scene that I wrote on my own.
Coming up,
I look up this short film that it said that I copied, and this is my script. This is my scene that I wrote.
The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Colin Ortiz, who is suing Oliver Salvador for intellectual property theft.
Now, how can you show me that you wrote that scene on your
I
own?
have the evidence right here, madam.
Oh,
I have the
let me
evidence
see
right here.
that.
Here you go. I have right
And this
there.
is the email of the
Tho-
scene?
That is the scene that I wrote solely. On there, you will see the original scene that we, the one that we put on our assignment.
Secondhand Watch was his. Stopwatch was my story that is in contest here.
So, on there, you'll see the original one. I should have written it on the top. It's the original one that
It
we put
is.
on.
It says original
Okay,
one.
that's the one that I wrote for our assignment.
And what happened to that assignment?
That assignment, okay, before we were able to turn it in, we decided to cut it out because we thought that it was going to be a little bit too lengthy.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's just bottom line this. The scene that you wrote,
That I wrote.
that you added to the class project,
Yes.
you ended up not using it.
No.
Right.
But this is the scene. Is there any dispute on your part that he wrote this scene and sent it to you?
I can't remember what scene he wrote, what scene I didn't write. All I know is that it's in my emails with my assignments, and I regard it as mine. I worked on it as well. It's just as mine.
Okay, so now you take this scene and you win something. And then later, you submit the scene for a scholarship composition.
I submit the scene for a scholarship because no one touched it. No one. It was still mine. It was still all my work.
already on the website.
Hey.
It was already on
I
the site.
still wrote this. Okay, no one touched it. We thought it was a good idea, but we just decided to take it out because it might have been too much for the school assignment.
So what happens when you submit this scene for the scholarship? Did you win the scholarship?
This is the part that makes it a little bit more upsetting because I won the scholarship for $2,000. And there is some sort of software or some sort of data inside or whatever website. So the website is called turnitin.com. And so I turned in my assignment in. And it said that I won. But eventually I got that letter saying that my assignment
Has been plagiarized.
has been
Plagiarism.
plagiarized. I look up this short film that it said that I copied, and this is my script. This is my scene that I wrote.
Judge Hatchett's verdict when we return.
Colin, I'm going to grant your claim of $2,000 because I think that you were wronged in this situation. I think that your piece was taken, and therefore judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000.
Judge Hatchett has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $2,000.
I'm sorry, Colin. I didn't know you were this passionate about this script we wrote back in school.
If this were to happen to you, you would have felt the same way. But now you have to pay me.